Sirens have stopped for now following several missiles. There was an initial wave. At least 4 Iranian missiles have launched towards the north. Another wave of missiles launching now. Okay, Iran has been peppering sirens from Lake Tiberias to Haifa for the arrival of Iranian missiles. They're striking northern Israel. Following the initial wave, sirens rang nonstop for 10 minutes for the arrival of multiple additional launches. Now there's an early warning for more missiles. Sirens have stopped for now. IRGC, tonight's operation was merely a warning announcement, and if aggressions are repeated, the response will be broader and will include all American Zionist targets in the region. Khan says, Israeli officials, we will respond to the launches from Iran. Quds translation, the Iranian response to the bombing of Beirut so far has exceeded the estimates of the security system in the occupation that Iran would respond in a limited manner. Yes. So basically what's happening here is the Iranian military, the destroyed Iranian military is seemingly not so destroyed. Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir says Tehran must burn tonight. There's going to be a lot of posturing from the Israeli side here. Iranians out in the streets tonight cheering as they see missiles launched overhead towards Israel. Israeli army radio says at least 4 missiles were launched by Iran's military towards northern Israel just minutes ago. I mean, this is a much more limited strike, but the very fact that regardless of the limitations of this strike in comparison to other Operation True Promise style attacks is the fact that they hit Israel. So that's somewhat of an escalation in comparison to the strategic restraint that Iran has shown since the beginning of the ceasefire, right? A couple weeks ago. So they hit 3 waves, 10 missiles, give or take. But the fact that they hit Israel, the fact that they chose to strike Israel implies that they are escalating as a matter of developing military deterrence. This was expected, and I was actually a little bit confused as to why Iran had not done so far, a way to reestablish that military deterrence. And I was actually very interested in hearing what Donald Trump would say. And it turns out Ahmed Segal and Trey Yingst are reporting, spoke with President Trump. We'll have more on Fox News in a few minutes. What I would suggest to Iran, you've shot your missiles, that's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. It's over. It's over. Oh my God. The fact that Iran is not only just striking Bahrain, Kuwait, maybe the UAE, but now Israel, and Trump is still like, oh, ceasefire's still here. Guys, chill out. Yeah, tonight's missile launches appear largely performative as all sides test each other's red lines. Medium-term trajectory is likely a nuclear-armed Iran, which may counterintuitively bring stability to the region. Yeah, Matthew Petty says, I don't think Israel will let this stay performative. And Muhammad Ali Shabani says, depends on whether Trump will allow Bibi to drag him back into full-scale war. Next 24 hours will be instructive. I agree. I do think that if Trump says to Israel, dial it the back, we have to secure this goddamn ceasefire, that's a huge deal. That means there is complete recognition on the American side that this is over. They are basically admitting that this is over, that Iran has won, and that they are willing to restrain Israel. I don't know what Israel will do, though, because Israel is a rabid dog, and I don't think Israel is going to take this lightly, albeit this is symbolic or not. I don't think Israel is going to turn around and be like, well, this is a symbolic attack on Israeli soil. They famously have zero chill on stuff like this because it's an ethno-religious supremacist society. And from their estimation, it's not dissimilar to the moral wound or the major wound that they took, not as a loss of life on October 7 necessarily, but the fact that this like inferior group of people from their calculations was able to conduct such a devastating military operation on Israeli soil. It's an insult. How dare the Iranians strike us? We are superior to them is the mentality by the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and also Israeli society broadly. This is precisely the reason why I found it unique and interesting that Iran had not engaged in this kind of action already. President Trump tells me I'm calling Netanyahu right now and telling him not to attack Iran in response. Oh boy. I suspect Israel will say, off to Donald Trump here. This will draw a major wedge. Direct impact and no interception on this one, by the way, which is, again, interesting. Anyway, escalation trap, can't stop escalating. Ironically, has a lot of similarities to how Mao criticized Nazism as incapable of doing anything but offend structurally. Yes, because Israel is a Nazi country. And yes, we are in the end-sieg stage for Israel. It's not the final solution for Israel. It might reach that point as well with respect to what they want to do to the Palestinian population when they get unbelievably desperate. But yes, Israel is engaging in a multi-front war of expansion and conquest right now. And the problem for them is that there is a military force capable of resisting that. There is a military force that is capable of creating military deterrence against that. So Israel might be preparing to strike with a forceful or powerful response, but this will only restart the war. Donald Trump is like, I'm bored. Let's get this ceasefire going. All of a sudden, he's going to not be so bored, I guess. Yeah, very different messages coming from Trump than we're hearing from the Israelis. Spoke with President Trump. We'll have more of Fox News in a few minutes. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if Donald Trump can rein in its attack dog.
Now, more broadly, he said that the ongoing Iranian missile fire toward Israel at this moment certainly is not going to help the negotiations. But again, he is calling on the Iranians to stop firing these missiles and get back to the negotiating table to ultimately reach a settlement. The president talked about the power of the U.S. military and also the power of the ongoing U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. This blockade, John, is currently crippling the Iranian economy. They are losing hundreds of...
Come on, Trey. Dude, Trey has been so bad. He was always, I mean, obviously he's the Fox News, like, foreign correspondent, right? And he's, you know, it's Tel Aviv Trey. But it is crazy to me that he at least would be, like, sincere at times and be like, oh, what Israel's doing to the Palestinian journalists is like morally repugnant. Since the Operation Epstein Fury began, he has been such a regime propagandist. It is actually insane because when you do this and you are clearly in the wrong, you keep undermining your credibility. Not that it matters to the Fox News audience, because just like the drama slop tubers, the right-wing reactionaries on the internet, they're not there to learn what the truth is. They're there to have their biases be confirmed and reconfirmed over and over and over again. But it is very frustrating that this guy keeps consistently showing himself to be in the wrong with his analysis, with his statements, because he's just doing propaganda for Trump and openly doing it. Trump and I had a conversation and he's right. Iran's military capabilities have been deteriorated. Okay, now you're in Tel Aviv and Iran is bombing Israel again. So clearly their military capabilities have not been deteriorated. What do you have to say to that? I know his ass knows the truth. He's just being disingenuous. It's embarrassing, okay? Have some decency. Have some goddamn backbone, Trey. God damn, Tel Aviv Trey over here. He got that one promotion and he basically lost all of his capabilities of critical thought. Trump says, I hope that Israel will not attack in response. If Netanyahu orders an attack, it will continue with a counterattack. We are close with Iran to your deal to end the war and do not want to blow up the deal. Each side had their own fun tonight. I'm going to call Netanyahu and say, no, do not attack. Oh, he's not going to be able to rein it in. Dude, come on, dude. It's Jover. I said, let's see if Trump can rein in its rabid attack dog. It's clear that this limited strike is still an escalation in terms of establishing military deterrence against Israel and was done deliberately to drive a wedge between U.S. and Israel to force America's hand in reining Israel in. IDF bot accounts turn on Trump. Yeah, Unit 8200 deployed. That's very funny. They got one speed, man. What are you, a Muslim? That's it. The only meta that the Zionist mind has is to just go, what are you, a Muslim, dude? What are you, a Muslim? God, you're being real Muslim right now with your actions. Okay, sure. Arya says, according to a source of mine, which allowed publication, Iran launched missiles from multiple different missile sites to send a message that Iran's missile complexes are active and ready. Here's what Ben-Gvir had to say. Tonight, Tehran must burn. According to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps via the Fars news agency, tonight's operation was merely a warning announcement, and if aggressions are repeated, the responses will be broader and will include all American Zionist targets in the region. The IRGC cites their reason for tonight's ballistic missile attack against northern Israel is continued Israeli strikes against Lebanon and U.S. attacks against Iranian coasts and vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, the Sea of Oman, and the Indian Ocean. The ceasefire is more stable than Charlie Kirk after he got shot. Yeah, my sources tell me the ceasefire is stable. Please, God.
Millions of dollars each and every day. And that's part of the reason that President Trump has been able to maintain this strategic patience across the Middle East, understanding that while the United States remains on alert in the region, they simply have to keep this blockade in place, and it will push the Iranians to the negotiating table.
Yeah. No, definitely. Every time America strikes Iran, it's actually to push them to the negotiating table. Every time Israel strikes Lebanon, it's actually to push Iran to the negotiating table. Well, it turns out Iran is actually the party that's pushing America to the negotiating table by, forcing America's hand in restraining Israel. That's the goal here. It's very clear because they are trying to goad Israel into potentially doing something that America doesn't want, because America obviously wants there to be a ceasefire. It's very clear, right? That's part of the reason why they're not bombing Iran right now. Peak Barack Ravid. Yeah, I know. It's yes, Unit 8200. More quotes from my phone call with President Trump. The Iranian strikes didn't hurt anybody. Hopefully Israel is not going to retaliate. Oh, Woo! Come on, dude. What are we doing? Hopefully Israel is not going to retaliate. If Bibi strikes them back, it's going to keep going like the last 47 years or the last 3,000 years. Trump added, we are very close to a final deal with Iran. It is going to be a good deal. I don't want to blow it up because of what's happening right now. Who's the superpower, man? Who is the mother superpower here, Trump? You're the president of America. The wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Bro, put the shock collar on Israel and go place. Enough is enough. Restrain your attack dog. God damn. Yeah, this is the most humiliating and weak foreign policy adventure in modern times. Imagine what Fox and Hawks would be saying if Carter, Obama, Biden had done something this feckless. Low key, I think it's because it's Israel that they wouldn't do this. I'll be honest. Because they were critical of Obama because he was too critical of Israel, not because Obama had enforced American superiority over Israel or American dominance over Israel. They were critical of Obama for being too critical of Israel. And they certainly were at times critical of Joe Biden for, this is laughable, being too critical of Israel again. So I think Fox News also has that Israel first priority in its coverage. And therefore, that's the reason why they're not going to on any president for abiding by Israel's wishes. Trump to Con News, I think Israel has responded enough. There doesn't need to be any more. We can achieve 3,000 after 3,000 years of peace. President Trump says he's not happy about Israel's earlier strikes on Beirut, Lebanon, and that the attacks were not coordinated with the U.S. per Fox News. Trump tells Iran, you've shot your missiles. That's enough. Get back to the table and make a deal. Trump stressed, I'm going to call Bibi right now and tell him not to retaliate. Each of them had their turn. They had their fun. Austin Technical says Israel's reportedly seeking permission from the U.S. to bomb Iranian energy facilities. Oh my God, they're so insane. IRGC, despite previous warnings from the Islamic Republic of Iran, the child-killing Zionist regime crossing all red lines and increasing attacks in southern Lebanon has targeted Dahia area of Beirut. We had previously warned that if crimes in Dahia, Beirut expanded, we would strike targets in the occupied territories. The Zionist army must stop its attacks on southern Lebanon and Dahia, and if it expands its attacks in that area or responds to Iran's actions, it will face more crushing and regretful blows and devastating attacks against the regime and its supporters. He says, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, the Zionist aggressive regime, by repeatedly violating the ceasefire, has been increasing its evils against the oppressed people of Lebanon day by day with the green light and support of the criminal America and the silence of the international community, and has been committing war crimes using banned weapons, including phosphorus bombs, since Friday. Despite the previous warnings of the Islamic Republic of Iran, its child-killing Zionist regime has crossed all red lines and intensified attacks in southern Lebanon, targeting the Beirut suburbs. We had previously decided that if the crime in Beirut suburbs expands, we will bombard targets in occupied territories. The Zionist army must stop its attacks on southern Lebanon and the suburbs, and if it expands its attacks on the region or responds to Iran's actions, it will face more crushing and regrettable blows, and the destructive attacks will begin against the regime and its supporters, and there is no victory except from Allah, the Almighty, the Wise. Fars News has released a video of the IRGC missiles launched towards Israel tonight, with one missile having a drawing of a soldier taking down Baal, accompanied by a message saying Iran is on the path of Jesus and Moses and at war with the corrupt people of Epstein Island. Anyway, let's get to Dennis Citrinowitz's analysis here. Again, Atlantic Council's very own. The key question is now how willing President Trump will be to pressure Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to scale back military operations before events spiral beyond anyone's control. This is not because Trump has attractive options at his disposal. Quite the contrary. The timing could hardly be worse. Yeah, you hit when you have maximum leverage. You engage in a work stoppage when you have the most amount of leverage, right? And this is the same principle that Iran is utilizing. An event the administration would prefer not to see overshadowed by a major regional conflict because the FIFA Club World Cup is taking place in America. At the same time, global oil markets remain vulnerable to disruption, and any significant escalation involving Iran could trigger renewed concerns about energy supplies, shipping routes, and price volatility. Against this backdrop, Washington faces an increasingly difficult balancing act, maintaining pressure on Iran and supporting Israel while preventing a broader regional confrontation that could carry substantial geopolitical and economic costs. The challenge is that the longer the current trajectory continues, the harder it becomes to control the pace and scope of escalation. Trump shuts down New York City. There will be no Game 3 watch parties outside of MSG. Due to the Trump visit, the plaza closure was coordinated with Secret Service. NYPD confirmed they are working to establish alternative watch party locations for fans. New York City was rocking after Knicks Game 2 win on the road. Thousands of New Yorkers took celebrations to the streets. I expect Game 3 to be even crazier. Oh my God. I think Donald Trump wants New York to be a permanent blue enclave that it already is. Like, but Donald Trump is solidifying that New York will never turn red. There will never be more than like maybe maximum 100,000 red voters in the state of New York and in the city of New York in general. I think it's really funny though, because he might not even end up attending, but these security protocols will still be implemented.
With a Fox News reporter who is stationed in Tel Aviv, who actually saw some of these strikes taking place and said he was asking Trump about how this could impact things and said it's certainly not going to help negotiations. He went on to say we're very close. I would say an agreement would be signed on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of this coming week. And now this takes place. So he was projecting a lot of optimism toward a deal there, which we have heard repeatedly throughout this. This is the 100th day of this conflict in Iran. And ever since those first joint U.S.-Israel strikes against Iran on February 28th, Trump has promised that this conflict was going to end soon, very soon. He threw out a number of different predictions, a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Recently, he has been pushing back on criticism for how long this conflict is going on, saying that these things take time, sometimes even years to resolve. No doubt everything we're seeing play out right now has the potential to cause more issues going forward.
All right. Julia Benbrook in New Jersey, traveling with the president. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with more news.
I know you like number. I know you like number. I'm a numbers guy. I looked at the numbers and I think Donald Trump is doing the best possible thing here. I know you like number. There's nothing offensive about comparing the actions and mentality of Israel to those of the Nazis. What's offensive is demanding that one country and only it, Israel, be exempt from those comparisons because it hurts people's feelings or because it seems bigoted to compare them. The whole point of the Nuremberg trials was that the precedent set there would have meaning, i.e. be something beyond mere victor's justice. If those principles applied to actions of all countries in the future, Israel doesn't have some special unique exception from the imperative. Numerous statements of top Israeli officials from Netanyahu on down have obviously similarities in defining views of Nazism regarding who and who isn't fully human. The chief U.S. prosecutor at Nuremberg was Supreme Court of the United States Justice Robert Jackson, who made this vital point in his opening statement about the universal application of Nuremberg principles going forward. Despite this, numerous countries, including the U.S., have adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism that bans comparisons of Israel to Nazism, even though you're permitted to make that comparison about every other country on earth. I just called the president and he responds to Iran's missile launch on Israel. He said he couldn't talk now, but added, things are going very well. Our brief conversation came after Axios reported he was going to ask Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu not to strike back. I know you like number. The Israeli right is having an aneurysm right now that Iran needs to be bombarded in a very big way because they responded to thousands of ceasefire violations in Lebanon. And the more Trump signals that he can't be bothered right now, the more they convulse. There's a certain resignation on Channel 14 at the moment where everyone is talking about Israeli officials telling them that something is going to happen, but then lamenting that Trump still holds the ultimate approval. Can still happen, but not immediately like they want. Let me guess, Israel will be persuaded to back off even though ballistic missiles have been fired into that country. 4 waves targeting civilian populations. Is that what we would do? Oh, Marky Mark. Marky Mark. Don't have an aneurysm, buddy. Don't worry. I'm sure Trump will still let the big dog do whatever he wants to do. All right. Trita says, a fragile arrangement had been reached in Lebanon. Iran had made clear that if Israel continued to strike Lebanon, it would strike at Israel. The U.S.-Israeli side says that overnight, Hezbollah killed 15 Israeli soldiers, a violation of that arrangement in their view, and a sign that Iran either didn't or couldn't control Hezbollah. At the same time, Israel knew that renewed attacks on Beirut, particularly Dahiyeh, would either force Tehran to attack or back down while having the added benefit of further weakening U.S.-Iran diplomacy. Iran did not back down. An attack on Dahiyeh, according to the Iranians, is designed to kill as many senior Hezbollah and Iranian officials as possible, so a response was inevitable in their view. By now, 4 waves of missiles have been fired at northern Israel, Haifa, and other areas. Some missiles are of higher quality than the ones Iran used during the war. That's, again, also remarkable. Israel will strike Iran within the next few hours, and the Iranians don't have any other expectation. Whether the U.S. enters the fighting actively as well or only provides support for Israel is the big question mark right now. The U.S. side is deeply frustrated that the MOU has not been signed yet and accuses the Iranians of either playing for time or over-negotiating or being incapable of getting to yes. The Iranians, in turn, accuse the U.S. of constantly changing the parameters while being unwilling to release a portion of Iran's frozen assets at the outset of the MOU as a way to prove their seriousness. If Trump doesn't enter the war, he will be accused of abandoning Israel. If he enters the war, he will validate that Israel has an effective veto on the negotiations and on whether the U.S. is at war or not, a true America First policy would have worked to extricate the U.S. from the Israeli-Iranian rivalry. Now more than ever, it should be clear why such an exit serves U.S. interest. Breaking. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accepts request from U.S. President Donald Trump not to I still think it's theater. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If he follows through on this, it's boss call. Unbelievable levels of deterrence achieved by Iran means Donald Trump is actually that desperate for a ceasefire that he's willing to slap Israel in the mouth. I'll take it. We'll see if Israel keeps bombing Beirut. Remember when people were mocking your wrong phone calls, what it takes? I mean, that always exists. But I'm disputing whether or not this is real. But yes, of course it's real. It is one phone call. See, listen. This is a huge development. Iran bitch slapped Israel today. Straight up. Israel thought that they could get away with bombing Beirut, and then Iran would not actually bomb Israel. Iran straight up opened fire on Israel. Obviously, Israeli society now wants to retaliate very, very aggressively. If Trump actually restrains Israel right now, at this moment, that means he is that desperate for a deal. Or, the stupidest option of all time, Trump simply wants to attend the game at Madison Square Garden tomorrow night, and that's the reason why he's telling Israel to hold off until he watches the Knicks game, Game 3, and then he'll be like, you can go ahead, you can shoot Beirut now, or you can shoot Iran, we'll shoot it together. Now, here's the thing. This means that Iran can literally get away with hitting Israel if Israel chooses to hit Beirut again. And America won't do anything about it. And as a matter of fact, America will tell Israel to stand down. That's a big deal. Once again, total and utter vindication in terms of my analysis on the matter. Why are we turning on Israel and Netanyahu tonight? Wow. We'll see. We'll see if we actually are. So we'll see if this is real or not. Only time will tell. But if real, this is a huge step. It's a huge step in the right direction because Iran has now officially, militarily caused so much damage and so much deterrence that America is begging for a ceasefire, so much so that it will tell its, dominant ally to stand down. It just got hit. This is a spectacular change of events. Like I've said over and over again, I'm not going to believe it until I see it with my own two eyes, until I see the military retreat, until the ink is dried. I'm not going to believe it, but this is a good step in the right direction. Last time this happened, yeah, that's true. Rogue state temper tantrum. New massive airstrike reported in Gaza as the U.S. and Iran appear to be nearing a deal to end the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Look forward to some incredible Epstein leaks tomorrow. All of a sudden, we're going to find out tomorrow that Donald Trump's dick deep inside of Jeffrey Epstein's butt or something, Oh my God, how did that get there? What? Wait, there's videos? How did that happen? Yeah, Melania having sex with Jeffrey Epstein leaked. How did that happen? Who has control over these Epstein files? They keep getting leaked out of nowhere. Trump massaging Jeffrey Epstein's feet. Trump massaging Bill Clinton's feet at the Jeffrey Epstein mansion. That drop side post you showed was from May. Yes, I know. I said the last time a ceasefire deal was imminent, Israel turned around and deployed maximum munitions on Gaza because that's the Israel strategy. And by the way, just like that, right on cue, Israel already literally got Kojat to shut off all humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, by the way, because they are disgusting Nazis and they're weak cowards and they only punish people who are vulnerable. The only thing they respond to is force. It's ironic that everything that they say about Iranians, Muslims, Arabs as a whole is actually projection, okay? The Israeli government only understands ass to belt, okay? If this is real and not theater, it's a huge step in the right direction where Iran has dealt such significant damage that Trump is willing to let Israel receive penalties from it for actively violating a potential ceasefire. Going forward, Israel's calculation as a spoiler changes.